The vast emptiness of the Kuiper Belt stretched endlessly in all directions, its darkness broken only by the faint glitter of ice crystals and the soft glow of distant stars. It was here, in this cold corner of the solar system, that the mighty Stellar Union fleet faced its greatest humiliation. Admiral Root stood on the bridge of the flagship, Star Seeker, his gray fingers gripping the command rail as he stared at the status displays. 300 ships, the pride of the Stellar Union's exploration force, now floated helplessly in the void. Their quantum drives, capable of crossing galaxies in mere weeks, had failed spectacularly. "Status report," he commanded, his voice tight with barely controlled frustration. "Sir, quantum drive failures across all ships," reported First Officer Bell, her metallic skin reflecting the red warning lights that filled the bridge. "The cold it's doing something we've never seen before. The quantum fields are creating exotic ice formations around our engines." The Admiral's antenna twitched, a sign of deep distress in his species. The Stellar Union had mapped 1,000 galaxies, had technology that could reshape planets, and yet here they were, stuck in the backyard of a primitive world they had passed by just days ago. "Options?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Our repair systems are useless in this radiation environment," Bell replied. "The automated maintenance units freeze up instantly. We've lost 30% of our energy shields already." She paused, her silver eyes meeting his. "Sir, there's only one option left." Root's antenna went rigid. "No," he said firmly. "We are not asking them for help. Sir, with respect, we're in their solar system." "The humans." "The humans," Root laughed bitterly. "The same humans who still use combustion engines, who haven't even colonized their own moon properly, who think digital computers are advanced technology." A loud crack echoed through the ship, followed by the deep groan of metal under stress. The viewing screens showed a horrifying sight: sheets of strange, crystalline ice spreading across the hull of a nearby vessel. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "the research vessel Mind's Edge is reporting critical hull breaches. Their crew, they're evacuating to their backup sections." Root closed his eyes. In all his years of command, he had never faced such a choice. The Stellar Union had always prided itself on being the most advanced civilization in the known universe. They helped others. They were never the ones who needed help. But as he watched another sheet of impossible ice crawl across his own ship's sensors, he knew they were out of options. "Calculate our drift," he ordered quietly. Bell checked the navigation systems. "At current speed, we'll reach the inner solar system in 3 months. But sir, these ice formations, they're growing faster. In 2 weeks, we might lose life support." Root's antenna drooped. "Send the signal," he whispered. The communications officer looked up in surprise. "Sir." "Send the distress signal to Earth," Root commanded, each word feeling like a personal defeat. "Use their primitive radio frequencies. Tell them." He paused, swallowing his pride. "Tell them we need their help." The message was simple, broadcast on multiple frequencies in basic binary code that human computers could understand. "Stellar Union fleet requires immediate assistance. 300 ships stranded in Kuiper Belt. Critical systems failing. Responding to this message will be considered first contact. Please help." As the signal began its hour-long journey toward Earth, Root stared at the distant dot that was the human sun. These humans, who still used metal tools and rubber seals, who built machines that required constant manual maintenance, who seemed stuck in their technological infancy. They were now his people's only hope. "Sir," Bell said softly, "perhaps we were wrong about them." Root didn't answer. He watched as another support ship reported engine failure, its crew switching to emergency power. The mighty Stellar Union fleet, with all its advanced technology, was about to learn a harsh lesson about the true meaning of civilization. The distress call raced through space, carrying with it not just a plea for help, but the first crack in the wall between 2 very different worlds. Humanity's moment to prove itself had finally arrived, though they didn't know it yet. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the impossible ice continued to grow. The message arrived at Earth's Deep Space Listening Station in Nevada at 3:47 a.m. local time. Tom Miller was on the night shift, drinking his fourth cup of coffee and watching the usual cosmic background noise scroll across his monitors. When the binary signal cut through the static, he nearly spilled his drink. "Hey, someone get Baker in here," he shouted, his fingers flying across the keyboard. This isn't the usual space junk. Within an hour, the small listening station had turned into a hive of activity. Dr. Baker, the head of signal analysis, stood in front of a wall of screens, her eyes wide, as she read the decoded message again and again. "Get me United Space Command," she said quietly. "Now." The next 24 hours saw the biggest mobilization of Earth's space resources in history. At the United Space Command headquarters in Houston, General Roberts faced a room full of the world's best problem solvers. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, pointing to the main screen, 300 alien ships are stranded in our backyard. They've got technology we can't even understand, and they're asking us for help." He paused, letting that sink in. "I need ideas, and I need them fast." In the third row, Captain James Walker sat up straighter. At 45, he wasn't the youngest person in the room, but he had something many others lacked: 30 years of practical space rescue experience. "Sir," he called out, "what do we know about their situation?" "Some kind of exotic ice formation," the general replied. "Their fancy quantum drives failed, and now they're stuck." Walker nodded, already pulling up data on his tablet. "Just like the Europa mission," he muttered. "Care to share with the class, Captain?" Walker stood up, moving to the front of the room. 3 years ago, we lost contact with the Europa deep drilling team. Their equipment got caught in an unusual ice formation. We had to improvise with modified oil rig technology to get them out." He looked around the room. "We need the same kind of thinking here. Not high-tech solutions, practical ones." The general's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "Sir, I want to bring in some unconventional experts. Deep-sea engineers, Arctic survival specialists, old-school mechanics. People who know how to fix things when everything goes wrong." "The aliens have technology centuries ahead of us," someone objected. "What can a deep-sea engineer do that their computers can't?" Walker smiled. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Those aliens are used to their technology solving everything. But out there in the Kuiper Belt, with radiation messing with their systems, they need people who know how to work with their hands." The room fell silent as the general considered this. Finally, he nodded. "You have 48 hours to assemble your team, Captain. What else do you need?" "The icebreakers, sir. All of them." "The space icebreakers. We only have 3 of those." "No, sir. The ocean ones. Give me every icebreaker ship Earth has. We'll retrofit them for space in the same way we modified the oil rigs for the Europa mission." Murmurs of disbelief filled the room, but the general held up his hand. "You want to turn ocean ships into spaceships in less than a week." Walker's expression was deadly serious. "Sir, those aliens are dying out there. They've got all the computing power in the universe, but right now they need people who know how to deal with ice, cold, and failing equipment. That's us. That's what humans do best." The general looked around the room, then back at Walker. "You really think this will work?" "Sir, humans have been solving impossible problems since we figured out how to make fire. Those aliens might have faster ships, but we've got something better. We know how to improvise." The next few days saw the largest coordinated engineering effort in human history. Icebreaker ships were pulled from Arctic waters worldwide. Teams of welders worked around the clock to attach rocket boosters and life support systems. Deep-sea engineers modified their equipment for space use, while Arctic specialists prepared for the coldest rescue mission they'd ever attempted. As Captain Walker watched the modified fleet take shape, he couldn't help but smile. The aliens had asked for help expecting a small support crew. Instead, they were about to witness humanity's greatest strength, the ability to take whatever they had and make it work. The first meeting between humanity's rescue fleet and the Stellar Union ships was not going well. Admiral Root stared through the viewing screen of his flagship at the approaching human vessels, his antenna twitching in disbelief. "Those are ocean ships," he said slowly, watching as the retrofitted icebreakers moved through space. They mounted rocket engines on water vessels. First Officer Bell studied the readings. "Sir, I'm detecting primitive nuclear propulsion systems, basic air recyclers, and..." She paused, manually operated mechanical tools. The human ships looked odd against the backdrop of space, bulky, angular, and clearly modified in a hurry. Their hulls still bore the faded names of their ocean-going days: Arctic Pioneer, Northern Star, and Polar Explorer. Leading them was the Frost Walker, Captain James Walker's command ship. "This is Captain Walker of the Earth Rescue Fleet," a voice crackled over their basic radio channel. "Permission to dock and begin rescue operations." Root clicked his communication device. "Granted," he said stiffly. "Though I must warn you, Captain, the quantum ice formations are unlike anything your species has encountered." There was a brief chuckle over the radio. "With all due respect, Admiral, ice is ice. We've been dealing with it since before we invented the wheel." The docking procedure was surprisingly smooth, despite the humans using what the Stellar Union considered museum-piece technology. When the airlock opened, Captain Walker led his team aboard, all wearing bulky mechanical spacesuits that made Root's crew wince. "Those suits," Bell whispered to Root, "they're pressure-sealed with rubber gaskets. Actual rubber." Walker approached, extending a gloved hand. "Admiral Root, James Walker. Let's see what we're dealing with." Root ignored the primitive greeting gesture. "Captain, I appreciate your willingness to help, but these ice formations are created by quantum field interactions. They operate on principles your science hasn't even discovered yet." Walker nodded, already walking toward the viewing window. "Maybe so, but from what I can see, it's still doing what all ice does: expanding, cracking, and following the path of least resistance." He pulled out a simple tablet computer, making Root and Bell exchange looks of amazement at the outdated technology. Walker either didn't notice or didn't care as he studied the ice formations spreading across the alien ships. "Look here," Walker pointed. "The ice is forming in layers, just like it does in Earth's polar regions. The quantum effects might be making it spread faster, but it's following the same basic rules." "Impossible," Root declared. "Our best quantum computers have failed to predict its behavior." Walker shrugged. "Sometimes you don't need a computer. You need experience." He turned to his team. "Mike, bring in the thermal drilling equipment. Anna, start setting up the ice monitors, just like we did on Europa." Root watched in growing concern as the humans began unloading what looked like primitive industrial equipment. "Captain, those tools, they're not rated for quantum ice formations." "No," Walker agreed, helping his crew set up a large drilling platform. "They're rated for something tougher, practical use in impossible conditions." He pointed to the nearest ice formation. "See how it's spreading along the hull? That's exactly what happens in Arctic waters when supercooled ice meets ship metal." As if to prove his point, a loud crack echoed through the ship. Root's antenna went rigid with alarm, but Walker just nodded. "Right on schedule," he said. "The ice is hitting the stress point. Mike, get that thermal drill running. We need to relieve the pressure before it cracks the hull." The humans moved with practiced efficiency, setting up their equipment with the confidence of people who had done this 1,000 times before. Root and Bell watched in fascination as the primitive thermal drill began its work, carefully cutting through the exotic ice. To everyone's surprise, except the humans, it worked. The quantum ice, for all its exotic properties, couldn't resist the simple physics of thermal expansion and contraction. Sometimes, Walker said, watching the ice crack and fall away. The old ways are the best ways. Root's antenna drooped slightly, the first sign of respect he'd shown. Perhaps these humans understood more than he had thought. Their technology might be simple, but their understanding of the physical world was anything but primitive. 3 days into the rescue operation, Captain Walker stood in the engine room of the Star Seeker, staring at the alien quantum drive. The massive device filled the chamber with a soft blue glow, its crystalline components now covered in spreading webs of exotic ice. "This is worse than we thought," he muttered, making notes on his tablet. Next to him, Mike Thompson, his chief engineer, nodded in agreement. "It's like the deep-sea methane vents all over again," Mike said, running a simple thermal scanner over the ice formations. "The pressure's building up inside the crystal matrix, just like it did under the Arctic shelf." Admiral Root and First Officer Bell watched this exchange with growing interest. Over the past days, they had begun to notice something odd about the humans. They kept comparing the quantum drive problem to things they'd seen before. "I don't understand," Bell finally said. "How can you compare our quantum drive to methane vents?" Mike looked up from his scanner. "Patterns, ma'am. Nature tends to repeat itself, whether it's ice forming in quantum fields or around deep-sea vents. Pressure and temperature follow the same basic rules." Walker pointed to a particular ice formation. "Look here. The crystal structure is growing in a spiral pattern. We saw the same thing when we were drilling for gas under the Arctic ice cap. The pressure creates these distinctive patterns, no matter what kind of ice it is." Root's antenna twitched with sudden understanding. "You're saying you've solved similar problems before, just at a different scale." "Exactly," Walker smiled. "Your quantum drive is incredibly advanced, but the problems it's having are as old as physics itself. Pressure, temperature, structural stress. These things haven't changed since the universe began." Mike walked over to a large piece of equipment they'd brought from the Frost Walker. "This is a modified deep-sea pressure regulator. We used them to prevent methane ice from forming around our drilling equipment. With some adjustments, it might help stabilize your quantum field containment." Bell moved closer, examining the device. "But it's so mechanical. There are no quantum sensors, no AI systems, no complex parts to fail." Walker finished for her. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the most reliable one." The discussion was interrupted by a loud cracking sound. Everyone turned to watch as a new sheet of quantum ice began forming along one of the drive's power conduits. "Mike," Walker called out, "get the thermal regulators in place, just like we planned." He turned to Root. "Admiral, we're going to need access to your power systems. We have an idea, but it's a bit unconventional." Root hesitated only briefly before nodding. "At this point, Captain, I'm willing to try anything." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The human engineers, working with their primitive tools and equipment, began setting up a network of thermal regulators around the quantum drive. They used principles learned from deep-sea operations, treating the quantum field like an underwater pressure system. "See, the problem isn't the ice itself," Walker explained as they worked. "It's the way the quantum field is reacting to the extreme cold of the Kuiper Belt. Your systems are designed to work in warmer regions of space. Out here, the field is becoming unstable, creating these ice formations as a side effect." Bell watched in fascination as the humans installed their equipment with practiced ease. "But how did you figure this out without quantum sensors?" Mike laughed. "We didn't need them. The ice patterns told us everything. Ice is ice, whether it's formed by quantum fields or Arctic winds. It always follows certain rules." As the last regulator was put in place, Walker stepped back and checked his readings. "Okay, let's fire it up. Mike, start with 20% power, just like we did in the Arctic." The regulators hummed to life, their simple but effective design beginning to affect the quantum field. Slowly, visibly, the ice formations stopped spreading. In some places, they even began to recede. Root's antenna lifted in surprise. It's working. Your primitive technology is actually working. Walker smiled, but kept his eyes on his readings. Admiral, there's something humans learned a long time ago. Technology doesn't have to be complex to be effective. Sometimes, understanding the basic principles is more important than having the most advanced solution. The quantum drive's blue glow steadied, its crystalline components clearing of ice for the first time in days. It was a small victory, but an important one. Proof that humanity's practical experience could solve problems that even the most advanced alien technology couldn't handle alone. The warning came without fanfare. A simple beep from one of the humans' old-style radiation detectors. Anna Martinez, the fleet's space weather specialist, checked her readings twice before grabbing her radio. "Captain Walker," she called, her voice tense. "We've got a problem." In the Starseeker's engine room, Walker looked up from his work on the quantum drive. "Go ahead, Anna." "Solar storm incoming. A big one. Our old-style sensors just picked it up." Admiral Root's antenna straightened in alarm. "Impossible. Our quantum sensors haven't detected anything." Walker was already moving. "That's because your sensors are looking for different things." "Anna, how long?" 20 minutes, maybe less. It's moving fast." Root touched his command console, bringing up his fleet's status displays. "Our shields are still at minimal power, without the quantum drives." "We don't need quantum drives," Walker interrupted. "What we need is to move. Now." He clicked his radio again. "All Earth ships, this is Walker. Emergency Protocol 7. Form up around the alien fleet. Standard icebreaker storm formation." Root watched in confusion as the human ships began to move. "Captain, what are you doing?" "Something we learned from 100 years of Arctic sailing," Walker replied, his fingers flying over his tablet. "When a storm hits and you can't move, you make a shield wall with your ships." The retrofitted icebreakers were already shifting position, creating a protective barrier around the stranded alien fleet. Their thick hulls, designed to withstand the crushing pressure of polar ice, now faced the oncoming storm. "Mike," Walker called out, "redirect power to the magnetic shields, just like we did in the polar storms." He turned to Root. "Admiral, get your people away from the outer hull sections. Our ships will take the brunt of it. But this is going to be rough." The first wave of the solar storm hit like a hammer. The Starseeker shuddered as radiation and charged particles slammed into the makeshift shield wall of Earth ships. Root's crew watched in amazement as the primitive vessels held their position. "Their hulls," Bell observed, checking readings. "They're actually deflecting part of the radiation." Walker nodded, keeping his eyes on his tablet. "Arctic-grade steel, 3 feet thick in places. Originally designed for ice, but it works pretty well against solar radiation too." "Anna, status." "First wave absorbed," Anna reported over the crackling radio. "But the main storm is still coming. Earth's magnetometers are going crazy." The human ship's formation shifted slightly, adjusting to the increasing pressure. Walker watched as his fleet's old-style systems continued to function while the aliens' more advanced technology struggled with the radiation. "Your quantum communications are probably down," he said to Root. "Use our radio network. It's not pretty, but it works." Root hesitated only a moment before ordering his fleet to switch to human frequencies. As the storm intensified, the simplicity of radio waves proved more reliable than quantum entanglement communications. "Second wave incoming." Anna's voice crackled over the radio. "Bigger than the first." Walker grabbed the command rail as the ship shuddered again. "Hold formation. Just like a polar night, people. We've done this before." The storm raged for 3 hours. The human ships, arranged in their time-tested formation, took the worst of it. Their thick hulls and basic but robust systems weathered the storm while protecting the more vulnerable alien vessels. When it finally passed, the damage report was surprisingly light. The human ships, despite their primitive construction, or perhaps because of it, had survived largely intact. Root found Walker in the engine room, already back at work on the quantum drive. "Captain," he said quietly, "I believe I owe you an apology." Walker looked up. "For what?" "We called your technology primitive. Your ship's outdated. But today, Root's antenna moved in a gesture of deep respect. Today you used that same primitive technology to save my entire fleet." Walker smiled, turning back to his work. "Admiral, humans learned a long time ago that it's not about having the most advanced technology. It's about having the right tool for the job." He patted the hull of the Star Seeker. "Sometimes, the old ways are the best ways." Outside, the human ships maintained their protective formation, their battle-scarred hulls testament to a simple truth. In space, just like on Earth, practical experience and reliable technology could triumph over theoretical advancement every time. In the makeshift workshop aboard the Star Seeker, humans and aliens worked side by side for the first time. The room buzzed with activity as Captain Walker's team laid out their plans on simple paper drawings, while Admiral Root's engineers displayed complex holographic models of their quantum drives. "The problem isn't just the ice anymore," Mike explained, pointing to his hand-drawn diagram. "It's the way your quantum field interacts with space at these temperatures." He looked up at the alien engineers. "But we might have a solution." First Officer Bell leaned forward, her silver eyes studying the simple drawings. "You want to combine our quantum technology with your thermal regulators." "Exactly," Walker said, stepping forward. "We've been thinking about this wrong. We shouldn't be fighting either technology. We should be using them together." Root's antenna moved in curiosity. "How would this work?" Mike pulled out a modified piece of deep-sea equipment. "This is a pressure regulator from Earth's deepest ocean drilling platforms. We've modified it to work with your quantum field generators." He pointed to where they had attached crystalline components from a damaged alien ship. "The quantum crystals enhance the basic mechanical process, while our thermal systems protect the crystals from the cold." The alien engineers studied the hybrid device with growing interest. One of them, a specialist named Gray, spoke up. "The design is surprisingly elegant. Simple, but effective." Walker nodded. "That's what we do best. We take what works and make it better." He turned to a large display showing the fleet's status. "We've already tested it on a small scale. The combination of our thermal control and your quantum field manipulation is more effective than either technology alone." The workshop fell silent as Root walked over to examine the prototype. The device looked strange, a mix of Earth's sturdy industrial equipment and the Stellar Union's sleek quantum technology. But the test results were undeniable. "How soon can we implement this?" Root asked. "We've got teams ready to start now," Walker replied. "The human icebreaker fleet can handle the installation. We've been doing similar work in the Arctic for decades." Over the next several hours, the combined human-alien crews began the massive task of retrofitting 300 ships. The human ships, still arranged in their protective formation from the solar storm, served as mobile work platforms. Anna coordinated from the weather station, keeping watch for more solar activity. "All clear for now, Captain, but we should work fast." The installation process was a sight to behold. Human workers in their mechanical spacesuits moved with practiced efficiency, while alien engineers monitored quantum field levels. The hybrid devices, ugly but effective, were installed one by one. "Look at these readings," Bell said, showing Root her display. "The quantum field is stabilizing faster than our simulations predicted." Walker smiled as he watched the ice formations begin to recede. "Sometimes the best solutions are the ones you can't predict. That's why we always keep the human element in our engineering." As the work continued, something unexpected began to happen. The alien engineers started asking questions about human technology, not out of politeness, but genuine curiosity. They wanted to understand how such simple devices could work so effectively. In return, the human engineers learned about quantum mechanics in practical terms, seeing how their basic understanding of physics could be enhanced by advanced alien theory. "It's beautiful," In a way, Mike said, watching their hybrid creation at work. Your quantum science tells us why things happen. Our practical experience shows us how to make them happen. By the time they finished the last installation, the fleet's situation had changed dramatically. The quantum drives were not only stable but operating more efficiently than before. The combination of human practical engineering and alien advanced technology had created something entirely new. Root found Walker in the observation deck, watching the last team return from their installation work. "Captain," he said, "your people have done the impossible. You've not only saved our fleet, you've improved it." Walker shook his head. "Not impossible, Admiral. We just did what humans have always done. We adapted, we learned, and we found a way to make things work." He gestured to the hybrid devices now visible on the ship's hulls. "That's the real lesson here. Progress isn't about abandoning the old for the new. It's about finding ways to make them work together." The Stellar Union fleet, once stranded and failing, now hummed with new life. It was a testament to what could happen when advanced technology and practical experience came together, guided by the human drive to solve problems, no matter how impossible they seemed. 1 month after the rescue operation began, the Stellar Union fleet prepared for departure. The ships, now equipped with their hybrid human-alien technology, looked different than before. Their sleek hulls bore the marks of human engineering, sturdy thermal regulators and mechanical backup systems that somehow made them look more capable, not less. Captain Walker stood at the observation window of the Frost Walker, watching as the alien ships tested their modified quantum drives. Each one powered up smoothly, their energy signatures showing none of the instability that had stranded them in the Kuiper Belt. "The test results are better than we hoped," Mike said, checking his tablet. "The hybrid systems are actually improving their quantum field efficiency by 30%. Admiral Root and First Officer Bell transported over for a final meeting. Their postures were notably different now. Gone was the stiff formality of their first encounter, replaced by genuine respect. "The Stellar Union Council has reviewed our reports," Root announced, his antenna moving in what the humans now recognize as happiness. They were surprised, to say the least. Walker smiled. "I imagine finding out that primitive humans saved your most advanced fleet was quite a shock." "More than that," Bell added, "your solutions have changed our understanding of quantum field dynamics. Sometimes the simplest principles are the ones we forget when we advance too quickly." Root stepped forward, producing a small crystal device. "The Council has authorized me to establish a permanent engineering exchange program with Earth. We have much to learn from each other." "Learn from us?" Walker asked, genuinely surprised. "But your technology is centuries ahead of ours." "Technology isn't everything," Root replied. "Your people have shown us that experience, practical knowledge, and the ability to think creatively are just as valuable as advanced systems, perhaps more so." The crystal device projected a hologram showing plans for a joint human-alien space station. "We would like to build this in Earth's orbit," Bell explained. "A place where our engineers can study your practical methods, while sharing our theoretical knowledge." Walker studied the plans with interest. The station's design already showed the influence of human thinking. Backup systems, manual controls, and practical solutions integrated seamlessly with advanced alien technology. "There's more," Root continued. "The Council has officially recognized Earth as an equal partner in galactic affairs. Your people have earned it, not through advanced technology, but through your unique approach to problem solving." The news spread quickly through the human fleet. The retrofit icebreakers, which had seemed so primitive next to the alien ships, had helped change humanity's place in the galaxy. "You know what this means," Mike said quietly to Walker. "Everything changes now. We'll have access to technology we never dreamed of." Walker nodded, but smiled. "Yes, but we'll use it our way. We won't forget what got us here. Practical experience, simple solutions, and the willingness to get our hands dirty when things go wrong." As the alien fleet prepared to depart, Root had one final conversation with Walker on the Starseeker's bridge. When we sent that distress call, the Admiral admitted, we thought we were reaching out to a primitive species who might, at best, provide basic assistance. Instead, we found equals who taught us that advancement isn't just about technology. Walker looked out at the stars. That's the thing about humans, Admiral. We're not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most advanced. But we never stop learning, never stop adapting, and never forget the basics that got us here. The Stellar Union fleet departed with a new understanding of humanity. Their ships, enhanced by human innovation, would carry the story of Earth's ingenuity to the far corners of the galaxy. Back on the Frostwalker, Walker watched the alien ships disappear into quantum space. A message flashed on his tablet. The first group of alien engineering students would arrive on Earth within a month. "So," Mike said, standing beside him, ready to teach advanced aliens how to think like human engineers. Walker laughed. "They've got the theory, we've got the practice. Together, who knows what we'll achieve." As the human fleet turned toward Earth, they carried with them more than just the success of a rescue mission. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in advanced technology, but in their ability to solve problems with whatever tools they had at hand. The stars seemed a little brighter now, knowing that humanity had earned its place among them, not by abandoning their practical roots, but by showing the galaxy that sometimes the old ways and the new ways were better together.